Okay. Okay, so there's a nice thing that is called the decomposition of the variance that I will explain now. So I will explain the decomposition when you just have two inputs. So we have a function y that is equal to f of x1, x2, okay? So you have x1 and x2 that are random variables. So we will we'll say that some sense y is just its mean value, okay? Plus okay, so we just write that so y is the expected value plus its projection on the x1 space minus its mean value plus the projection on the x2 space minus its mean value plus y minus I subtract all this one, okay? All this thing. Okay, so I can say that okay, so what is happening? So in this here in the decomposition, we have 4 terms. And in addition, they are orthogonal in L2. So obviously here I need an assumption is that the output y is in the space L2. Okay. So maybe we can prove that our 4 terms are indeed orthogonal in L2. So that means that, so for example, so the first 2, for example, is orthogonal in L2 with okay, so to see that, you just compute the expectation of the product, that is Okay, so what you get here, so this is just, you develop your product here. So here, what did I write? Okay. Okay, so this is a constant. Okay, so you can put your constant outside this expectation. And if you take the expectation of the expectation conditional, it's just the expectation. So here again, you will find E of y square minus E of y square is equal to 0. Okay. Maybe I can do another one, but I won't do all the computation because they are all the same. So if you want to prove that, so this is. Maybe I can show you that. Okay, so this is a 2. This is 3. This is 1, and this one is 4, okay? So you compute the expected value of the product of 2 with 3, so okay, so when you do that, you develop your product. So this one minus E. So you will have something like that. Okay, so you just developed your product, and what is happening here is that what can I say about this guy and this guy? If you remember the Doob theorem, it tells you that this is just a function of x1, and this is just a function of x2. Okay, so here, what we will assume is that if I want to say something more, I need to assume that my inputs can be very different, okay, but they have to be independent, okay? So if they are independent, here I will have the product of the expectation. Okay, so at the end, what you will have E of y square minus E of y dot square that would be 0, okay? And you can do all the other computation. You use exactly the same arguments. And at the end, you see that each term in the decomposition are orthogonal with one each other, okay? Okay, so now what is happening if you are more than two? What is happening if you are more than there are two inputs, but okay, you can always say that you split into your inputs. For example, let's say that x1, I keep x1 and the other ones, I call them x till 2. You do the Hoeffding decomposition for this one, and then recursively, you can have, you can write the Hoeffding decomposition. Okay? So now what is happening? So we have this Hoeffding decomposition, okay? So now I can compute the variance, okay? So if I compute the variance here, we'll have that the variance of y is the variance of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, okay? But they are orthogonal in L2, so we know that if random variables are orthogonal, the sum of the variance is the variance of the sum is the sum of the variance, okay? So that would just be the variance of 1. So that by orthogonality, okay? So now what is happening? This one is a constant, so the variance equals to 0, okay? So this is equals to 0. And the variance of 4, I can write it just the variance okay. So for example, computing the variance of this term is the same thing as computing the variance of just this one, okay, because you know that the variance of the variance is invariant if you add a constant, okay? So at the end, if you compute the variance in both sides, you have a formula that tells you that the variance is equal or the sum of the variance of the expectation of y knowing x1 plus the one with 1x plus the variance of the remaining term, okay? So I remind you that for today, I assumed that y was in a real number. Okay, so now I can divide both this equality, both sides by the variance of y. Okay, so if I divide by variance of y, what I obtain is 1. Okay, it's equal to okay. So how can we interpret this formula? The one on the left-hand side of this formula has to be interpreted as the 100% of the variability of my phenomenon. Okay. So I am splitting the quantity of variability of my phenomenon into the several parts. Okay. So this part, for example, represents explain the fraction of the variance, okay, that is due to the action of the variable x1, okay? So in some sense, you do the projection of a y in the x1 space, and you see what percentage of variability you have in this space, okay? This one will explain the importance of x2, okay, that explains what percentage of x2 explains on the variance of the output y, okay? But you have to understand this, that here you have x1, but when x1 is alone, okay? So you try to understand what is the impact of x1, but playing alone on y, okay? So maybe we can make some example here. So I take a very simple example where y is x1 plus x1 times x2. Okay? So here, what is the variance of y here? Someone? Nobody? Yeah, you can do as you want, but at the end you compute. You can just compute. You do what you want, but you can compute e of y square minus. You just compute that. It's just do your computation. We know the law of each input. We have independence, so it's really easy to compute the variance of y. Okay. Here, what will be the expected value of y knowing x1, for example? Okay, so you just intuitively, I'm saying that x1 is fixed. Okay, so this one just become a number, a fixed number. Okay, so I just take the expectation. So I have x1, it's just a number. Here I should have e of x1 is fixed, so I can put it outside the expectation, and now you have e of x2 knowing x1, but as they are independent, it's just the expected value of x2 that is equals to 0, so I just have x1 here. Okay? So now what would be the expected value of y knowing x2 is 0, okay? Or maybe I can first write the Hövding decomposition. Then we do this computation. So the Hövding decomposition here is just E of y equals to 0. Okay, in this very simple example, the Hövding decomposition is just that. Okay. So we need to compute what is the. So that was we say that was just x1 and that was 0. Okay. So your Hövding decomposition is just x1. 0 plus x1 plus 0 plus y minus x1. Okay, so this is my 4 terms in the decomposition. Okay, so I have to compute the variance of y, right? It's just the variance of x1, x2. So that would just be 1. Okay, obviously. So now, if I compute the terms I have here, okay, so maybe we can keep that. So we have the divided by variance of y. So that will be the first one. So here, what is the variance of this one is the variance of x1, so it's just 1 divided by 2. 0, and this would be also 1 divided by 2. Okay? Okay, so here the interpretations here. Okay, so the fact that this value is 1/2 means that x1 alone explains 50% of the variability of y. x2 alone explains 0% of the variability of y. And we have that the interaction so here we can think, okay, x1 is 50%, x2 is 0%. So where are the 50% that I don't find? But they are between the interaction of x1 and x2, okay? And they are here, okay? So we have to be careful because here one mistake we can do is to say, okay, this is a x2, sorry. If we find that this number equals to 0, this doesn't mean that x2 has no influence, okay? It only means that x2 has no influence alone, okay? But it can have influence with interaction with the other variables, okay? Okay, so I have so if I take U a subset of 1 to k, okay. Okay, what I call the Sobol index for the SU is just the ratio between the, so you take the expected value of y, knowing the variable xy for the index you are interested in, okay? So for example, you can have u could be 1, 2, u could be 1, you could be 1, 2, 7, okay? Okay? 1, 2, and 7, just for example. Okay? If, that would be a subset of 1, 2, okay? Okay? Divided by the variance of y, okay? So the interpreter SU gives you the influence of the variables you put in U, okay, on the output y, but with no interaction with the variables that are not in U, okay? So in the example we had previously, we had, so we can compute everything. So in the previous example, so for this example, okay. Get S1 equal to 1/2, S2 equals to 0, S12 equal to 1, sorry. Okay? Of course, if I take all the variables, the influence I have is 100%. Okay? so maybe we can do some other examples. So maybe some obvious property. So the first obvious property is that if your code doesn't depend on some of the variables, you will find that S of this variable is equals to 0. Okay? Okay. So you have to be careful. The converse of this property is not true. Okay. In the example, we saw that S2 equals to 0, but Y depends on X2. Okay. It means that if you find S2 equals 0, it means that alone X2 has no influence. But interacting with other variables, it can have some influence. Okay. Okay, and the obvious property is that if SU equals to 1, it means that your code only depends on the variable you put on U. Okay. So imagine you compute S2, you find that S2 equals to 0, and you want to know what is the importance of X2. Okay, what is the total importance? Okay, alone there. So how do you? Oh, maybe I can. Yeah. If you take for example, if you take in U every one, but not two, okay? So it's easy to see that, in fact, the importance of the second variable, the total importance of the second variable will be the importance of 1 the term minus the importance of all the other variables. And, okay. What do you have is in S1, 2? If you have more than two variables, okay, you will find in S1, 2 the importance of X1, the importance of X2, and the importance of the interaction between X1 and X2. Okay. So maybe we can do. Some examples. Okay, so maybe Okay, so again, this is a very easy example to do the computation. So who can tell me what is the variance of y in this example? So A, B are some parameters, okay? Okay, what is the variance of y here? I think we should find a square plus 1 plus 1 plus, and so that will be all the squares, and you can see that all the variables are center and all the covariance are equal to 0 if we compare the convergence between this one and this one is 0, this one and this one is 0, and so on. Okay, so it's just the sum of the expected value of the square. Okay. So here, what is the conditional expectation of y knowing x1? That would be just a times x1. Okay. Here you will find okay, and now we can compute all the variances. And at the end we find S1 should be something like no, not by square. Square plus 2 plus b square, we'll have that S2 S3 will be S1, 2 would be, so the variance of this one is, so S1, 3 will be a square plus b square. And S2, 3 would be okay. Okay, we can do another more complicated example. So So there's a function that is called in the literature the Ishigami function. So okay, so you take three random variables that are uniformly distributed between minus p and p, okay, and you look at this function that is sinus x1 plus 7 sinus square x2 plus 0.1 x3 to the power 4 sinus x1, okay. Okay, so now if I'm telling you what is the more influence variable, okay, you see that it's not obvious on the formula to decide which of the variable is the most important. Okay. Okay, so we can do the exact computation and find, for example, these three values. Okay. So maybe we can start the computation together if you don't believe me. Okay, but it's not too difficult. Okay. But you see, for example, when you do the computation, we find that S3 equals to 0. Okay. Which is really not intuitive when you see the formula. Okay, so what is that? So and it's not intuitive on the formula, and it's a bit surprising. Okay, when you find that. Why? Because you see that here you have here you have a power 4, okay, that is you have a power that is larger than any other power in your formula. Donc intuitively you would like to have something that tells you that x3 is very important, okay, because if you take something to the power 4, I stress the variability, okay? What is happening here is that you multiply this one by sinus x1, okay? That x1 is center, so sinus also will be a center variable. And you remember when we had a product like in the preceding example, okay, we had a product x1 times x2, and we saw that in this case, if you just take this function with, for example, n01, you will find that s1 equals s2 equals to 0, okay? In some sense here, if you think that for small value sinus x1 is not far away from x1, okay? In some sense here you can think that you have multiplied by x1, and that explains that here you will find a 0, okay? But if we compute, if you compute S13, you will see that here you will find a very big value. Okay. Can you tell me what would be S13 here? S13, I only have 3 variables, okay? So it will be the total influence minus the one that depends on 1 and 2, okay? So we can compute that. But, okay, so if you don't believe me that here we can do the computation, you can just try to do the computation. So you want to, for example, to compute the Sobol indices, you need to compute the variance of y, okay? So for that, we will compute the E of y square minus the expected value of y to the square, okay? So, so for example, what is the expected value of y? Well, you just say that it will be you just choose you use the linearity of the expectation and the independence of your inputs. Okay, you just have that. And now you just have to compute, for example, what is what will be the expected value of sine 6(1). We know the law, so this is just the integration between minus p and p. Okay, and that would be 0, okay? And then if you want to compute the second one, you just compute okay? And you use the trigonometric formulas, and you can so all you know, all we need to know is to integrate sinus to the power 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, and that will be all we need. Okay. So you can do so again. Okay, again, you can do that as an exercise, and if you don't succeed, we can talk about it on the practical sessions, okay? Okay, but now you can, so now, maybe another classical example, it is called So you take here RID uniformly distributed on 0 and random variables. You consider a function that is a product function, okay? And each of the function is the absolute value of 4x minus 2 plus some parameter divided by 1 plus the parameter, okay? And again, in that case, it is possible to compute explicitly the Sobol indices, okay? So again, I give you some work to do. So now you can imagine that if I give you a very complicated function, okay, with some always here I'm giving you some the law are very nice with respect to the function, so we can do all the computation. But if I give you a complicated function with complicated distribution, it would be impossible to do the exact computation of S1, S2, and the Sobol indices, okay? So, the problem okay, if F is very complicated, it's impossible to compute explicitly SU, okay? And in addition, if you remember what I told you in the first lecture, is that in practice, we don't know F. F is just a computer code. I don't have a formula, so there's no hope to do exact computation, okay? And in practice, it's in applications, in real application, we don't have a formula in the real applications, we don't have a formula for F, so we cannot compute the theoretical value of the Sobol indices, okay? It's impossible. So, as a statistician, we want to have a method, a good method to estimate those indices, okay? Now I will explain you how we can estimate Sobol indices, okay? So, for example, imagine you want to estimate S1, okay? So if I take a look at the formula, okay, we see that I have to estimate the numerator and the denominator, okay? So the first thing I can say to estimate the variance of y, it's easy to estimate. I just need a sample of y, and then I can compute the empirical variance of y, okay? So, since I have the code, I can have I can have easily a sample of y. Okay, so what I don't like in this formula, what is a little bit scaring, is the conditional expectation here. Okay. I gave you formula, I gave you example where it's very easy to compute the conditional expectation, but if I give you not a function that is that I built for doing an exercise, it just in practice it's just impossible to compute conditional expectation. Okay? So if you want to estimate the variance of the conditional expectation, it seems difficult, hopeless, I don't know. Okay, but we have a very nice trick. So that is basic. That we call the pick and freeze method. Okay. So what is the trick? Yeah. Okay, so I'm just so I'm explaining you the method for when you want to estimate S1, and then we can generalize it. Okay, so here what is happening is, so I will just say for S1, so what do I do? I freeze x1. Okay, x1 is the variable with respect to which I want to compute the expected value. Okay, you freeze this variable, and then what I do, I say I take a copy of the other variable. So x prime 2 is a copy of x2. That means that it has the same distribution but is independent. x12 prime will be independent of x12 but with the same distribution. Okay? So that is the term peak. Okay? So you resimulate the other variables and you keep the same one for x1. Okay? And here we have a miracle that is happening here, is that what we have is that the miracle here is that the variance of the expected conditional expectation would just be the covariance between the two variables, y and y tilde. Okay? So the proof is not too difficult. It's always possible to assume that E of y equals to 0. If not, you just subtract the expected value. Okay. Obviously, y and y tilde, they have exactly the same distribution. Okay. They are not independent, but they have the same distribution. They are not independent because here I have the same x1, but they have the same distribution. Okay. So if E of y is equal to 0, I also have that E of y tilde is equal to 0, okay, because they have the same distribution. Okay, so now let's compute the covariance of y tilde. So in that case, the covariance will just be the expected value of the product of the two variables. Okay. Okay. Now I will say that the expected value is the expected value of the conditional expectation, in x1. Okay. So that will just be okay. Maybe I was a little too fast here. Sorry. It's okay. Maybe I should do one more steps. Okay. So now what is the point is that if you fix x1, okay, if you fix x1, here, what is happening, you fix x1, so what is happening for y and y tilde now? They are independent, okay? Because x1 is fixed, okay? So x1 is fixed, so now you have x2, xk for this one, and x prime 2, x prime k for this one, so they are independent now. Okay? So now then you can say that the expectation is the product of the expectation. And since they have the same law, at the end you will find the expectation of E of y no x1 square, and this is just the variance of the conditional expectation because they are centered. Okay? Okay, so now we can do exactly the same thing for okay, if you want the same thing for SU, what would you do? Just write to the general formula. So you have your y. Okay, so In YTIL, what you do, you keep the same variable if the index j is in U, and again, you have the same result. That is, the variance of the conditional expectation is equal to the covariance of Y with Y tilde. Okay. So at the end, what we saw is that we rewrite the Sobol index as the ratio between a covariance and a variance, and I don't have a conditional expectation anymore, so now it will be easy to estimate the indices. Okay? Is it clear, the pick and freeze method? Yes? So now we can estimate the Sobol indices. Okay? Okay, so what do we need now? We need so you take, yes?
Perhaps I'm missing something.
Yeah.
So in this construction, do we not need to ensure that the whole collection x2 to xd and x2 prime takes...
Yeah, they are independent. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
collection is independent?
Yeah, I have independence, yes, line by line. X prime 2, for example, is also independent to of x1, x2, xk.
So we are assuming that the individual variables are also independent.
Yeah, everyone is independent. Yeah. Okay, so you take a first sample of your input random variables. Okay, with that I can compute x1, sorry, x1k, x2k, xk, n. Okay. So first I simulate n sample of y. Okay. So I have my sample of y. Okay. Now we will keep the first variables. So you keep all the first variable and you simulate order independently order the other ones. Okay. So So you keep the first line, and then I compute x2 prime 1 okay. So I keep the first input and I resimulate the other ones. Okay? And with that I will compute. You use your code. So here I will have y still 1, that would be f of x1 n x prime okay. So okay, so what is happening here is that I am computing my code. That is the expensive part. Okay, it's my code. If it takes 2 days, okay, if you need a sample size 1,000, okay, you need several years to compute that. Okay. Okay, simulating the inputs. Okay, simulating the inputs, that is not a problem. Okay, that can be costly is to compute the output. Okay. So now I have n sample of y, n sample of y tilde, so I can compute classical estimation of the covariance and the variance. So I will compute so what will be a natural estimator. So I will do okay. So you just take the empirical version of the covariance and the variance, and that gives you this estimator. Okay, so let me just rewrite my estimator here. Okay, so now what can we see? What can we say about the properties of this estimator? So what can we say about the limit of this estimator if the number of observations go to infinity? The first thing I'm saying is that my estimator goes to S1 almost surely. Why is it true?
Because of the continuous mapping.
Sorry?
Continuous mapping.
Yes, more than that. It's because of the strong law of large number plus the continuous mapping theorem. Okay, you apply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the strong law of large number, and then you apply the continuous mapping theorem, and you have the results. Okay. So this is easy. Okay, so now the question, so this is easy to see. So So the question is, can I say that square root of n s hat minus s1 converge in law, and if yes, what is the limiting distribution? Okay, so so the answer to this question is yes, this is true. We have a Gaussian limit, and we'll see tomorrow that the proof is just a really nice application of the delta method. Okay, we saw this morning, but maybe I won't do the proof now. I just want to just finish by 2 comments. So the first comment is that we can do a little bit, we can improve a little bit my estimator. Can you see why we can do better? For example, to estimate the variance here, I only use a y, the sampler. I only use the yi to estimate the variance. But since the tilde y tilde has the same distribution, I can also use y tilde to estimate the variance. In that case, I will have the sample that is of time 2n and not n, so it will be a little bit better. Okay. So here you can say, okay, I will also you can add here you can say we add the wild tilde the variables to estimate the variance. In that case, you will improve a little bit your estimation of the variance, and it's also true here. The covariance is okay. For that part, you cannot improve the estimation of that part, but you can improve the estimation. Here you estimate E of y just with the yi, but you can also use the y tilde because they have the same distribution. They will converge to the same limit. So you can here and here you can improve a little bit the estimation using the other one you are not using. Okay. So that was the first comment, and the second comment. Imagine you want to know if alone your first variable is more important than your second one. Okay? In practice, you cannot compute S1 and S2, so what will you do? You will compute the estimation of S1 and the estimation of S2. Okay? Imagine that you find imagine that you find that your estimation of S1 is less than your estimation of S2. Can you say, so here you do your simulation, you do your computation, so you can compute that. Can you say that that will imply that S1 is less than this 2? Okay, since there are only estimation, okay, it can happen that the estimator S1 is below the estimator S2, but the true indices and the other way around. Okay, so what you can try to do is to do a statistical test. Okay, so you will put H0 S1 less than S2 and H1. But for that, you will need to have the joint distribution of the estimation. Okay, so what you want here is not only to estimate just one index, but maybe two in the same time have the joint distribution. Okay, but that is also possible, and you will also have a central limit theorem in R2, for example, with the joint distribution law, and then you could do your statistical test. Okay, so we will see all that maybe tomorrow, and I will stop there for today. Any questions? Yeah.
So that same question that I asked. So if we do not assume independence of the components,
Yeah.
then we'll need to ensure that the joint distributions are actually independent.
No. The point is that if you don't have independent in the components, you don't have the decomposition of everything. If your inputs, if x1 is not independent with x2, okay, what is happening there is that in the decomposition of everything, the terms are not orthogonal. Okay, so you cannot say that the variance of y is the variance of plus the variance. So you don't have the decomposition of the variance. Okay, the important assumption here for this theory is that the inputs are independent. Okay, so in theory, okay, but that is not true in practice. You can, when you have a function of two variables, you can always construct a space when you have two inputs that are independent that gives you the same results. Okay, but in practice, it's not true. If you have a real application, maybe Okay.
Some kind of a.
So there was some more. So people now are trying to understand what is happening when you have a dependence between the variables.
Yes, but
So but it's much more complicated. That,
some kind of weak form of dependence.
yeah, and they are all talking on graphs with coding dependence with graphs and so on. So it's a bit more complicated.
So any other questions?